We're going to tilt that down. We're going to tilt. For an hour and a half, I sat here and got everything ready to go so I could be good to go right off the bat. Dreamy, thanks for hanging out for so long while I fix my problems. I'm going to take a sip of water. Hopefully everybody can hear me everywhere out there in the universe. And we are ready to finally go. All right. Well, welcome. It is another Sunday. This is episode 12 of Cosmic Matters. And with Cosmic Matters here today, basically, by the way, I am the Matt of Cosmic Matters. My name is Matt Washington. And I created the This Matters video series and this podcast to give you a different perspective of the world that we live in. And by doing so, I hope to entertain your brain for a little bit. So we are currently live on YouTube under Philosophy Man 76. Also the same for TikTok, Philosophy Man 76, and we are on stereo. So if you wish to throw up a comment or make a comment about the show or things that we discuss, feel free. If you want to be a part of the podcast in the future, feel free to reach out to me. And I love having guests up and having other thoughts as opposed to just listening to me. But I got a lot of stuff to share today, and I got an interesting subject. This might be a part 1, part 2, because I always want to talk about like what's going on in the future, like the future of humanity, where we're going. And I had a mentor tell me once. He said, if you want to predict the future, study the present. And presently, what I'm seeing going on with the robotics, with AI, it is really something that, it's in its infancy, but it's almost like, I was around, I'm going to be turning 50 soon. I was around at the start of the internet. I remember what it was like to not have an internet. It was funny. My sister was visiting. My sister was visiting this weekend, and she had her kids with her, and she brought up. She was showing the kids this old medical book that we used to have, and it was basically like you would turn to the first page, and it had like it started like at the head and went down to your feet, and it was like it would have a question, does your shoulder hurt? And you would say yes. It would say, if yes, go, it was like a Venn diagram, or not a Venn diagram. What are those things called where you follow along or whatever? It's like, does your shoulder hurt? Yes. All right. It could be this. Is there discolorization? No. Okay. Then it could be, then go to here and look here, and it could be this. And it was like little bubbles, and you follow a little path, and they try to figure out your medical problem. And I was like, hey kids, come over, let me show you the internet, what the internet was back in the 1980s. This was how we figured things out. And there was no Google, there was no WebMD or whatever. And then my sister brought up this old yellow book we used to have, which I don't even know where it is anymore, where my dad used to like fix things in the house, and it would tell you would have pictures and diagrams and how to fix the sink and how to do this and that. And so I was around before the internet, and when the internet started, there was the internet bubble, the financial internet bubble, where everyone thought like all you had to do is make a .com and you would be a millionaire, and everyone was just making all kinds of websites. They were just getting domain names. People were buying. I remember Arnold Schwarzenegger had to, because so many people misspelled his name wrong, like somebody went and they bought all the misspellings of Arnold Schwarzenegger's name and made it a .com, and then they tried to sell them to Arnold Schwarzenegger. Right. So I was around for that time. And so we, at that time when the internet was just first coming out, like I remember I was in college, and they would, there would be like little chat rooms. It looked like the Matrix. It was like a little DOS window with a black window and green letters, and and you would talk to other people, and people would jump in the chat room, and you could chit chat with people across the campus or wherever. And that was like the internet. There wasn't even a Google. There wasn't a Facebook. This was pre MySpace, right? It was just people still trying to figure out what the internet was and what you can use it for, and was it something that you even needed. And all the things I hear about now about AI are still the things I'm hearing about the internet. Like, that's a waste of time. It's not good for people. It's this, it's that, and people spend too much time on it. And so now, as AI, people still don't realize how crazy and good AI is, and robotics, and what is actually coming. And there's going to be a phase, but now there's going to be a phase. There's going to be a transition. I always say people, well, I don't always say this. Again, another mentor told me this once. Like people want change, but they don't want transition. Nobody likes transition. Everyone wants to lose, 20 pounds, but they don't want to do the work. They hate the work and the diet and the exercise that takes to lose 20 pounds. Everyone wants better things in their life, more money or whatever, but they want the change, but they don't want the transition. And the transition is what we're going to go through. And I was so as far as AI goes, like I said, I was taking a class yesterday. It was like a 8-hour seminar in AI, and it was just cool. They pulled up this like they showed how, like, if you wanted to learn something, like the way that even we are going to understand things is going to be different. So they pulled up this, they said, if you wanted to learn, let's say it was like a long document or a research paper that you wanted to learn, or a legal document that you wanted to break down and learn. Oh, okay, Roy, thanks. So as far as that goes, so they said, well, what if you wanted to learn this? And one of the things that they did in the class is they showed, like, number one, you can make a summary, which I think all of us, and it was like, tell me, like, I'm 10 years old, explain this, really complicated document to me or whatever. And they upload the document, and they gave a summary. And they said, that's like step one of trying to learn it. But even still, you got to read it. You got to read the summary. So maybe some of you are not good at learning from just reading something. So then what they did is they asked the AI to turn the document into a podcast, and said, please make this a podcast where people are explaining what I need to know from this document, the important parts, so I can understand it better. And within a couple of minutes, it was a whole podcast. There was two voices. It was a male voice and a female voice, and they were like, hey, welcome to the whatever show. And they started talking back and forth about the document, right? And then he was like, the instructor was like, okay, so now that you're listening, he paused it, and he's like, but now let's say you have a question about something. Maybe it's still something you don't understand. So he said, so what you can do is you could join the podcast and ask a question. And he gave it a prompt, and he basically asked a question. He's like, I'm a something engineer. How does this relate to my job? And then the podcast, the two people on the podcast, like, oh, we have a question from the audience. And it says, how does this relate to me as an engineer? And they said, well, there's a couple of ways that this relates to you. You need to know this and that. And it started talking to them. And then both people on the podcast were explaining. So it's like, literally, it's like you can take this paper that's really hard to understand, put it in this format, and maybe listen to it in the car on the way to work. And they did the same thing with like, if one of the things when I was working at Sonova for a while, there was all these Salesforce dashboards, right? And the Salesforce dashboards, a lot of times I didn't understand what half the things were. I didn't understand the words. It's like when you go into a new job, and I was there for 2 years, but there was a lot of financial stuff and a lot of just stuff that I didn't understand. I didn't need to understand it, but we were in meetings and whatnot. So what they did in this class is they took the dashboard, they took a screenshot of the dashboard and put it into the prompt of the AI, and they said, explain to me this dashboard like I'm 12 years old. And it went through and explained all the different things and what they do and how it could be. And then he said, tell me how I can, the important parts of this I can relate to my boss, so that I can understand this and I can relate it to somebody else, and that I'll never have to understand this again. Like, this is the way I'll get it from now on. And then the AI broke it down. So I'm only explaining this because to me that was mind blowing. I don't think people really understand yet that you can do a lot of these things. I know people don't understand. I didn't understand. I'm a person, right? So I'm learning all this stuff now, and that's not even, so literally, why would you need a person? And they were showing all kinds of stuff, AI that can go into meetings for you and then give you the notes and then give you the takeaways, and then you can ask the AI, please write me up a business plan or a report, to explain these things and to my boss, blah blah blah, right? And so if you really think about it, it's going to get to the point where, why do I need to know why do I need to be the middle person? Why, if the AI can do all this stuff, why do I have to learn it, right? And that's just for reports of financial data, and this was, by the way, for legal documents, for medical procedures, for research papers, the peer-reviewed paperwork, the AI can within, and by the way, it was doing this all within minutes, not even minutes, maybe a minute. So this is really, to me, looking at that part of it, like the whole AI part of it is going to really eliminate most of our need for jobs, right? Or at least eliminate you, the person. And now, I was just working with Grok. I was trying to make just a post to promote, that this podcast was going to be on for IG, and it took forever because it sucked. And then I had to go to the premium and I had to get Super Grok. And so it's right now, AI is where I was talking about, like where the internet was. It's still in its infancy. It's still learning. It's still getting better and better. And like there's all these different AI search, all these AI engines, and most of us only use AI as, like a Google search just to find information. But the things that it can actually do, and once we learn how to do it, or how to, and it keeps getting better, it's going to eliminate the need for us. It's going to happen. And I just actually also really got into AI music. I was watching Elon Musk on the Joe Rogan podcast, right? And when I was watching that, Joe was talking about the what was it? The AI generated music, which is all I listen to now. All they've been doing, it's funny because I think like in like less than a year, I'll look back at this podcast and be like, remember when this just was starting as a thing? But I had a friend of mine send me a video, and it was 50 Cent, Patiently Waiting. And it was like the soul version of 50 Cent, Patiently Waiting, right? So now I've watched, and it was amazing. Like, it was so good listening to the AI generated music. And so I listened, and it was like a 50s version of it. And so I listened to that, and I thought it was just like a cool one-off thing. But then I realized that, then I started looking, and there's all this AI music. They're doing it with like all the old 90s rap songs, turning them into soul music. And it's really good. Like, it's super good. If you haven't heard it yet, you will. Trust me. And it's all I listen to now. And it's funny because I've gone through a stage in my life. Like, I was just telling this to Super High Man yesterday, is I used to, in my car, like I would never drive my car without, I live in New York, right? Without Hot 97 being on. I would listen to the radio when I was in college. Like, there was no getting in the car and not listening to the radio and like listening to music. And we had cassette tapes, and then that switched to, I don't even remember if I had CDs for my car. I don't think I ever had a CD for my disc player in my car, but I would just always have Hot 97 on. Hot 97 was the thing to listen to. Hey, I spoke his name and he showed up in the stereo podcast there. Hey, Soup, I was just explaining, saying the same thing I was saying to you last night or yesterday, is that I would always listen to Hot 97. There was no driving without listening to Hot 97, right? And Wendy Williams was on there. That was before Charlemagne was on Wendy. Oh, actually, Wendy Williams was on WBLS. Let me rephrase. It wasn't just Hot 97. WBLS was on as well, but it was just always music on. And then I got to a point where I listened to just talk radio. I got to talk radio and I started listening to talk radio. This was like probably right after 9/11. It was all sports and talk radio, and I didn't listen to as much music anymore. And then it got to the point now where I only listen to YouTube. Like I literally, I haven't turned the radio on in my car. Like I can't remember the last time I turned the radio on. I just play music. I remember I had an MP3 for a little while, but now I just play my phone through my car. And this evolution of technology, we're going to get to the point. And so when I was explaining this to my sister yesterday, I was showing her this AI music, and she's like, "I don't like it." And I was like, "You don't like the music?" She's like, "No, the music's great." She's like, "I just don't like, I don't like the fact that it's on a person." And I said to her, I was like, "Well, it doesn't matter if you like it or not. Like I wish I don't." Oh, the whole point of me bringing up the radio. So I don't like today's music. I don't like listening to Youngblood, whatever, or NBA, or I don't even know the names of. I can't believe I don't know the names of. I remember in college, I knew like every year there was music coming out, new artists, there was just so much music to listen to. Now I don't even know anyone, and I want to listen to music. I like listening to music. So, but there's just been no music that's even. I remember having this conversation. This conversation with a friend of mine about the Weeknd, right? And the Weeknd music, not the Weeknd like Saturday, Sunday, but the Weeknd, the artist. And she was like, "I love the Weeknd so much," and blah blah blah. And I'm like, that's because he's the only R&B singer that exists right now, other than like him and like Bruno Mars. You have like two. Like when I was in the 90s, we had all of them. There was so many R&B, Boys to Men and Jodeci and Silk and Jagged Edge, and there was just so much music. There was just so many artists, like having one, so many rap artists, so many of this. So now that this AI music has come out, it's so good. And I think and somebody said, I don't remember what podcast I was listening to, but somebody was saying the reason why it's so good is because one, the words, the lyrics are so good. The musicality of it is so good, but they also said, well, it's also not real. Like they don't need to take breaths. They can hold a note forever. they can hit notes that with the AI can hit notes that no people can't hit. Like and they don't need to breathe. One of the cool things about Eminem is when he raps so fast, it's like, where is he breathing? How does he take a breath? But he does. He has a lot of breath control, and this is what musicians have to work on, is breath control. AI doesn't breathe, so it makes me think of Neo in the Matrix. It's like, do you think that's air you're breathing? So the music could be whatever the imagination can come up with, and I'm telling you, like it's not going to be 50s soul with this music. They're going to make it. And I have a friend who does this as well. We every during the summertime we would have volleyball, and then he would just type in lyrics for what happened in the game, and then he would make it like a 40s style barbershop quartet that would sing about the game that we just played. He would make this on the way home, like he would just talk into his phone and make this up. So there's a new world coming. That's what my point is. Like this would be seen as magic if we went back 50 years from now, 50 years ago. But it's not. Let's see. Oh, we got some comments. Let's see if I can make this comment play from Pearl.
Yes, I've actually heard some of those AI songs as well. Funnily enough, I came across a YouTube video that was like recommended, and then I played it, and I think it actually made me cry. Which was actually really funny. In hindsight, I was like, a robot made me cry. Sheesh. But yeah, I'm particularly conscious not to sort of get into it too much. I kind of think that there are some dangers to allowing AI to entertain me. I mean, haven't you heard about the agenda of AI anyway? To basically like control and influence our mentalities.
Okay, so if you, for those on TikTok who couldn't hear a comment, Pearl just mentioned from our stereo audience that she was listening to an AI song and it made her emotional, it made her cry. And why wouldn't it? Like, why do we think like we get emotional about all kinds of stuff, right? We get emotional about movies all the time, and it's not real. We know it's not real, but we get emotional about it because we get wrapped up in it. There's no bad thing about that, right? And it's funny because we, I think of the movie with the, what was it, 2001 Space Odyssey, all right, where the monkeys, see the computer or whatever and they start beating it up. And any type of, our brains have evolved to be scared of anything that is unknown, right? And why is that? Because unknown would sometimes kill us, right? If we were in the jungles, as we evolved and as we became more and more sentient and more logical, somebody, I forget who said it, but it's like we are the descendants of cowards, right? the people who ran away were the ones who ran away the fastest, were the ones that got to procreate, right? And the ones who went out to battle are dead, right? So they didn't get to spread their genes as much. So the idea, the concept, or the strongest, the people who survive the battles. So it's like, this is where our fight and flight comes from. And so anytime there's a new technology, right? Just think about TV, right? The things that Pearl, I gotta stop saying right, catching myself doing that a lot. But Pearl just mentioned that it's here to control us, and it's gonna, it's going to, we got to be careful. This is what the same thing that happened with any new invention. The invention of the TV was the same thing. Oh, they're using it as mind control, and they're going to, they're going to give us false information. I was watching a video of a woman who literally had she was like VHS tapes, and she taped like every single thing. Like she typed everything, all the news programs 24/7, all the TV shows and everything. They found this house full of VHS tapes. Like she would literally change her job and her to make sure that she was home in time to change the tapes, and she just recorded everything because she was afraid that they're going to do. Now, by the way, they do use TV to control us, but then it was the same thing with the internet. Like they're going to use the internet to control us, and it's going to be that's and now AI is going to control us. And yeah, everything that you can get a conspiracy theory about everything, and everything can be can be used for good or for evil. It's just how you decide to do it. I say that about money all the time. It's just what we're supposed to be talking about, right? Money, having a lot of money just makes you more of what you are. If you're a really good, generous person and you make a lot of money, then you'll be more good and more generous. That's how it works. If you're an evil jerk and you make a lot of money, then you'll just have the ability to be more of an evil jerk. That's if you want to use money to control and to build your own power, then that's, the more money you get, the more power you will try to obtain. So it just makes you more of who you are. And unfortunately, the way our money system is set up, our economic system is right now, it is the winners of the game, of the money game, are usually the narcissists and the people who are out to who are more narrow, let's just say narrowly focused, right? As far as getting more money, right? So I was watching it was a Joe Rogan thing too, and he was talking to somebody about Elon Musk, and he's like that guy just wants to make a lot of money because he really wants to go to Mars. Like he wants to do these things, and he's building stuff, like he's actually building stuff, versus someone who makes a lot of money as like a financial guy, someone who's just moving money around, making millions, whether in the stock market or the crypto market. Like they're not making anything, they're not helping humanity out, they're just making money. Or somebody who's a landlord who's got 50,000 people in an apartment building. Now he is at least providing some kind of service, and I don't want to go down this side. No, but the point being is the purpose of some people, like, you're going to make money. I always said this to someone about I forget who I was talking to about Elon. They were like, well, he's a trillionaire, or he's going to be a trillionaire. He's at the time a billionaire. And I'm like, well, how could you possibly do what he's doing without becoming a billion? Like, he's trying, like, before we got to robots, before we got to self-driving cars and everything, just making the, when the left loved Elon, and he was just making electric vehicles, and it was like, okay, and he was making it so everyone felt cool, making a cool electric vehicle that people would buy. And I'm like, well, if he's going to change the entire car market, and we're only at like 14-15% of new cars that are bought as electric vehicles right now, and eventually we'll get to 100%. So places like Norway where it's already 100%. I'm like, how do you expect him to do that without becoming rich? Like, he's going to sell the cars. Do you expect him to just give every single dollar he makes over a certain part away to somebody else? Why would that be something that, like, you can't not become rich if you make something that everybody buys, or that a lot of people buy, or that it's a benefit to people. And now you could just sell it literally at what it costs to make, but your company is not going to grow to the point where you can then continue to build more factories and hire more people. And you can't grow if you're just at break even, right? It's like you need to make a little more. And so anyway, we got a couple more messages here. Soup, I did send you a link if you want to come up. You don't have to send messages. You're more than welcome to join me. Although I got some Alan Watts to talk about today. I got a video from Alan Watts and Money, and then I have a video from the Joe Rogan podcast, where Joe Rogan was not the one with Elon, but just one he just did after that, which is on this topic. So we're probably going to do a part 2 of this. Good morning, Megan. I see you there. Thank you for being here. Oh, I have some hearts on. Thank you. I love my Twitter fam. Thank you. All right, Twitter fam can't hear these messages, so I'm going to play the message, and then I will just reiterate what was said. And maybe on YouTube you can see it. You can hear this.
Oh, that's so fair. I know the music coming out of humans right now is also dangerous. That part. I totally agree. It's sounding like human beings are losing their soul. Straight up. And so robots are having more soul? Come on now. Do you know what I mean? Isn't that like supposed to sort of alert us that maybe we need to get back to a certain way of being, human being?
So yes and no. So Pearl's comment was, the robots giving us more soul. Maybe we should go back to the way we are. Maybe we're losing a part of ourselves. But here's the thing that we have to remember is we evolve. We go forward. The things of the past, the concept of, let's just stick with music since I'm talking about music. The concept of becoming a well-known big music star in the past. I remember watching the movie Ray, right? And you had to see like all the travel. You had to go and you'd have to be on a bus and you'd have to travel to all these different venues, and you have to, go and talk to all the different record labels to try to get your song played, and you go into each station and you have to interview and you do all this stuff just so people could hear the music in the first place. You had to convince all these people just to try to get your music played. Now, if I could make some music right now on my computer and put it on YouTube, and it's out. I could go on Spotify. This is going on Spotify, by the way. Check us out on Spotify, Cosmic Matters. We have all 12 episodes up. Well, 11 up right now. 12 will be up soon. But anyone can make anything now, right? So the work and the dedication and the effort that has to go into it is not going to be the same. You're not going to have the same kind of pain. They're not going to be, I'm an Eminem fan, so I have a, there's a song about Eminem talking about he's, printing up his own labels at Kinko's and, making his own. I remember the bootleg mixtapes of the 90s, where I first heard some Biggie music. It was on like a DJ Clue mixtape that I got. That's never going to happen again. They don't need to. And also now these musicians don't even need to be a record labels. They don't have to go get a record deal. They don't have to have somebody pay them. They just if they have the talent and they can just put it out. But now people can just go and make AI music, and it might be like, well, it's not the way it used to be, but who knows? Is it the way it used to be better? It's just different. But if we came from where it used to be, if we understand, like someone, I was talking to my niece, who's what is she? I think she's 11 now, and I was saying, well, it's like Madonna, and she's like, who's Madonna? And I was like, are you kidding me? How do you not know who Madonna is? But why would she know who Madonna is? To me, it was like Madonna, Michael. Like people were born 10 years ago. They don't know how big. It's like me trying to understand how big Marilyn Monroe was. She was big. I understand but I don't know what was the big deal. Her skirt flew up once. What was the big deal? Of course, I'm not going to understand that because I didn't live in that time. So as we evolve, as things change, we might see them as bad, but they're really just different. And of course, and every time, like I said, with humans, when we see something new, we immediately are scared. We're immediately like, this is going to lead me into the whole thing about money now, because we see a future that's different than what we've known. And it's like, oh my goodness, is this the right thing? Are we going to get destroyed? It reminds me of Independence Day, where they tell them, do not shoot do not shoot guns at the alien spaceship, right? You might start an intergalactic war, right? Because something different happens and our immediate reaction is fear, because that's how our brains have evolved, to fear the unknown. The dark is scary to us because it's unknown, as opposed to the light where we can see what's going on. All right. Let me see what Super High had to say.
The only fear I have is that to make art, you need empathy, and AI doesn't have empathy. And it's going to give you what you want to hear or what you like to hear, the words you like to hear. It doesn't mean that it's good. It means that it resonates with you. I recently had a friend pass away, and I think that that had something to do with it, because he was on SoundCloud making a bunch of to what's going on. And that's why I just got to weird it out, because I'm like, psychosis is real. My wife brought it up last week in an article of where there's a bunch of things going on right now with psychosis. So be careful.
Yeah, well, and if you've got, and then we've talked about that as well. And as far as, like I said, with anything, there's always a good and a bad. There's a good side to stuff, and there's a bad side to everything. It's in its use. Even our language, the way we talk to people, can be used to hurt, or it can be used to help. And one of the things I think we need as humans is what we need to learn how to do is learn how to. I don't know what that means. Sorry, TikTok. This is why it's really important to us that in our education that we're able to look at concepts and ideas from different angles and have what Subhai just said was empathy. Have empathy towards understanding the reason why this person says something. Well, this is going to send me down a whole nother. Soup's very good at doing this, sending me on crazy tangents. But I was watching a Simon Sinek video, and he mentioned that right now the way we talk, our dialect is, if you don't agree with me, you're evil. right? Like the left thinks the right is evil, the right thinks the left is evil, and if you demonize somebody, if you don't want to look at their point, if you're not having a discussion to come to a solution, but instead you're having a discussion with someone because you want to win, like you want, like I said, if I said to somebody on the left, so who's a big Donald Trump hater, for example, I said, what if Donald Trump, would you be happier if Donald Trump was gone, or if he was actually successful in making everything better, even though it wasn't the way you think it's supposed to go? Like, what if things actually got better under Donald Trump? Would you be and again, by the way, I'm not a fan of Donald Trump or whatnot. My point that I'm getting at is, do you want things to be better, or do you want to be right? As I used to say to my friend all the time, do you want to be right, or do you want to be happy? Right? And a lot of people will pick right over happy. A lot of people will pick, I want to be right versus getting the results that I want to get. And so I'm on such a tangent, and now I got more messages coming in, so I know I'm going to go more on a tangent. What time we got? All right, it's only 10:46. We can. I do want to, at least, as I said, I'm going to do a part 2 of this. I want to get to the Alan Watts. It's only a 13-minute video, but it talks about money. And all right, let me play the messages, and then we'll keep going. More messages coming.
Yeah, definitely. I think it is about how you use it, but when you're unconscious about how you're using it, and the whole point is to infiltrate the way that you see things, and, do you know what I mean? Then you're probably not going to be using it the way that is most beneficial for your soul. And like the difference of movies, I would say, is that you've got human beings tapping into their human emotions, using their soul to make these portrayals in films to connect with other human beings. And then you've just got AI. You know, but even with like animated cartoons, you've got like the voices of real human beings. So that's on another level. It's different. It's the way it should be. You know?
Well, all right. So the point being made, for those of you on TikTok couldn't hear that, is saying that it's an actual person, right? So there's no soul to the AI, and you're actually, even cartoons, it's a cartoon voice, and it's people who are making these stories to make this stuff. Here's my point: who made AI? Didn't we make AI? So if we made AI, then this is actually one of the dangers of AI, right? Is that you can program AI, like, for example, like was it the Google AI, the Gemini AI? And this is one again of the positives and one of the dangers. So the way the AI was programmed is that diversity is the most important thing, right? And because it was programmed by a company, or some people had beliefs on the left. This is one of the things that Elon was talking about when programming AI, and how it could go extremely bad. In that you have the AI is built off of what you teach it. It's like your kids, right? If a kid lives in a certain is brought up in a certain environment, and that's all they know. If they're brought up where everyone is white, and their family tells them that black people or Hispanic people of color are evil and bad, and that's all the inputs they get, then they're just gonna they don't have another. That's just what they think. That's the way their reality is. If someone's brought up poor and thinks that bad, rich people are evil, and keeping them in that area and keeping them in that way, it's very hard to break that mold. Now, there's people who have grown up in certain environments that have broken that mold, but the AI, it depends on how it's trained. So if it's being trained to be truth seeking, like maximum truth seeking, whether then that's one of the things that it will try to do. It will try to come up with truth. But you could program, if you bring up the AI, like the AI I was just talking about, if it's designed to be like maximize diversity, right? And then you ask the thing is, they ask this AI, give us a picture of the founding fathers, right? Well, the founding fathers are all white old men, right? Or old for that time period. I think like the average age, I think like the average death rate was like 38 or 40 or something like that in the 1800s, 1700s. So, but the AI created a picture of like a black woman as one of the founding fathers, and then a Hispanic woman, and then an Asian man, and it's like, okay, well, yes, it's diverse, but that's not true. it's just not. It's not a true thing. So you have to. There are dangers, of course, as you're making these AI things, right? So. And this was one of the dangers that is a danger of AI, and that it can do so much. And if we program it wrong, I was reading something about like if you program, like let's say you're just making an AI to manage a factory to make paper clips, and its job was to continually make it more efficient, be better, faster at making paper clips. Well, eventually that AI might get to the point where like if it understands that paper clips are the most important thing to it, because that's the way it's been designed, it's like, then it could say, well, why are we using cars? Why are we using metal for anything other than paper clips? Why are the resources being there? Let me change the direction of shipping. If it had power, he got into the internet, figured out how to, it was like, okay, let's figure out how to send all metal to the factories and stop processes of other factories. And eventually we get to a point where like humans are a detriment to making paper clips, and let's get rid of them. Like, why don't we just eliminate humans, and then the robots can do it? And so literally you could have these fatal humanity ending ideas that go into an AI. So yeah, when I'm not sitting here saying, oh yeah, cool. Why did that pop up? How does that work? What is going on here? Soup, you just sent me something and now I can't see my. Oh, there we go. Because I'm stupid and I don't know how to use. I don't know how to use technology. So yeah, so there's of course there's dangers and everything. By the way, and the idea that maybe AI and robots are the next evolution of life on planet Earth. Like we do not, like, humans didn't always exist here, and humans won't always exist here. We're going to change. And so maybe we are the creators of our next evolutionary thing. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that is, but we like to see ourselves as special. We have these special souls. She mentioned the word souls like 3 or 4 times. I'm like, I've never had anybody actually explain to me what exactly a soul is. And we're going on a big tangent. I'm not going to go down that road right now. Souls and spirits and consciousness and mind and all this stuff. This is why we have Cosmic Matters. This is what we talk about. But we say, like, just her biasness towards humans. Nothing wrong with that, by the way, but we are humans, so we're biased to humans. And so we believe humans are very important. We are the most important. Like we say things like, we have crimes that what's the worst crime you can do, right? It's murder somebody. I guess genocide would be the worst, but that's just murdering a lot of humans. So we're like, oh, thou shalt not kill. Murdering is bad, except if it's like insects. Well, we don't mean insects. You can murder insects. If you want to step on an ant, do it anytime you want. That's fine. We're not gonna, I had bees that invaded my house. We called Terminex. They sprayed them down. No one got mad. So it's not like murder. Okay, now if it's something that doesn't look like us at all, that's not human, murder that all day, right? No problems at all. Disease, bacteria, no problem, murder it. But if it kind of gets closer to humans, if it looks like humans, then the more it is like humans, it's not okay to murder, right? So like a dog, like if somebody murdered a dog, people would lose their mind, right? Like nobody wants people get, Mike Vick went, for fighting dogs, dog fighting. And so why? Because dogs kind of look like humans, and they have their eyes, and they look closer to humans than a lobster, right? And a lobster, super server me say this before, a lobster, we're like, no problem, take it, boil it for dinner, stick it while it's alive, just cook that thing up, and it's a delicacy, and we can tie its pincers together and its claws together, and we'll go into the restaurant and pick out the one that we want to kill. Can you imagine if they did that with a dog? People would lose their minds, right? So so the closer it is to humans, the more we're like, oh, that's not okay. But if it was like a choice between killing a dog, if someone's like, the dog was trying to attack me, and a human, well, then the dog dies, right? Then we're like, okay, well, it's not a human, so it's okay to murder it, because that's how it goes. So murder is only bad when it's or Super sending me some messages in the back. I can't get to all these messages. By the way, yes, I see that the evolving of eyebrows. Man, on such a tangent, but why not? It's fun, right? I'm going to do a part 2 of this, but I'm definitely going to get to the video before 11. Okay, 11:15. I'm stopping everything and starting the video, no matter what. Let's talk about money, but the concept is, it's okay to kill something if it, kill a bear, kill anything that's going to attack a human. So humans are the most important thing. So you can't murder humans, except you can if they are also trying to, okay, self-defense, then it's cool. Self-defense, then if you kill someone, self-defense, that's kind of cool. Or war, right? Like if we're not, we do have wars, and those other things are humans, right? That we're fighting against. Louis C.K. has that whole thing, like, of course, but maybe. If you haven't seen that, look it up on YouTube. And one of the things he says is, of course, the military are the greatest, we should always honor the military and this and that. But he says, but maybe if you went to another person's country and you got shot by somebody who you were just shooting at, then maybe it's a little bit your fault. Right? And so that's his joke, right? And so we're like, oh yeah, of course, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous, right? So as long as you're on our team, and if you're murdering somebody else who's not on our team, then it's okay. All right. So we always have these caveats to all these rules that we make up. There's caveats to it. And so I forgot even what my point was throughout that entire long thing. But the souls. All right. So the idea that AI is not human, it doesn't have a soul. So therefore, why? What do you mean? What was, I don't understand. Like, if we program the AI to tell us what we want to hear, then the soul came from us, right? The AI is creating things that we want to hear because we put that into the AI, right? So let's see. The movie Soul will teach you what soul is. What a soul is. Yeah, I've seen the movie Soul. Dogs evolve eyebrows so that they can make expressions with us. There's a difference between them and wolves. Okay. So that's the whole Alan Watts thing, that we try to come up with meaning to things like, anyway, what time is it? All right, it's 11 o'clock. We're gonna move on because I'm totally not on topic. and I do want to get to the topic, which is about money. But here's the thing. Here's how I'll wrap up this part of the conversation. The AI is coming no matter what. Whether the TV came, even though people didn't like it, people didn't like cell phones. I have friends who still won't use a microwave because they're like, it's not good for you. It's gonna make you sick and blah blah blah. But those friends will die, right? And People who grew up with microwaves their entire life eventually will get to the point where there's enough people using, right? People didn't like cars at first. They're like, I like these horses. I don't need to have a street and put gasoline in. I can just ride wherever you want. And so there's still people around who use a horse. There's just not a lot of them. And the way we're going is these AI and robots are coming. So you can resist it, and that's fine, but it's coming. There's just there's an adoption, something called an adoption curve, right? There's the and where there's the what is the adoption curve? What are the hold on. I forget what all the things are. There's the early adopters, the late adopters. Wait, adoption curve. This is really important, actually, adoption curve. Let me see. What is the name of these? There are the innovators. That's like the first 2.5%. People make this stuff up. And then you have the early adopters, which are the 13.5%. That's why they say there's something called the tipping point. It's a book called The Tipping Point, which is, I think it's something at like 18 or 19% penetration into something. Once 18 or 19% of people get it, then it becomes something that's inevitable, right? So that would be the innovators, which are 2.5% population, the early adopters, which are 13.5%, and then you have the early majority, which is 34%. Then you have the late majority, right? Because once the early majority, they're like, they get it. They're like, all right, this is cool. And then enough people get it that they're finally like, oh, this is kind of cool. I see a lot more people like Teslas. I remember when I first saw the first Model 3 Tesla in a parking lot. I was like, oh my God, that's the Model 3. That's so cool. And now I drive around and Model 3s all over the place. And more people, it's gotten through those early adopters. And now, like the Cybertruck, I don't think it's going to get through the early adopters phase. It's not going to get through that 18%. So you're not going to see we see Cybertrucks occasionally, but I don't think it's going to get to the point where it's got mass appeal. All right. So you have the innovators, the early adopters, the early majority, the late majority, and then the last 16% are called the laggards, right? Like the people, like I have a buddy, what's up, Ryan? Who like still had a flip phone all the way up until like 5 years ago, right? He's like, I'm not getting a smartphone. And so like I said, there's still people riding around on horses. There are people who don't use a microwave. There's always there's a certain population that's going to be behind that just doesn't accept whatever the new technology is, or it takes them a long time to get there. But once it gets through that tipping point, that's where we're going. And the AI is and the robots are coming. Like there's no they're not coming. So it's just a matter of where you're going to be in the adoption curve of it, and we all choose where we want to be. So that being said, and the reason why it's coming is because the reason why it's inevitable is because whoever gets it first wins. That's kind of how it goes. Whoever figures out general AI and programs it is going to be like the AIs can, like I said, they made what's taking me to do this whole podcast and put this together. And I can't even get the camera on in the beginning. It took me like 8-10 minutes to get everything started up technology wise. The AI made a podcast on a very difficult subject in less than a minute. So yeah, it's somebody's going, the winner is going to, it's like saying, I don't want to be a part of the internet. Well, the internet did a lot of things and it was very beneficial and the people liked it. Now, can you go on the internet and are there more people who are addicted to porn and are now addicted to gambling and, all these things that you can go on the internet that are also bad? Sure. Yeah. It's a part of it. It's also why we need better guardrails and better restrictive. We tend to be, as humans, we tend to be reactive to things as opposed to proactive to things. So yeah, do I think there's got to be a lot of, but it's just not, we're not going to, society is not going to catch up to how fast AI is coming. right? So the government, Elon Musk was out, I want to say 2010. And I remember there's a video on YouTube, you can see it, where he was at the governors meeting of all the 50 every year. I think all 50 governors get together and discuss, their states and what's going on and where they're going. And Elon Musk was there, and he was talking about the dangers of AI. Like, this was back before he did any AI, before he was making robots or anything like that. He was just literally making electric cars. But he was trying to explain to the government, he's like, once this gets out of the box, once the code can write itself, you can't put it back in the box because it's out. And he's like, this is the most dangerous thing that can happen to humanity. And they just blew him off. They were like, oh, okay. Thanks, crazy. It's like in the movie where the science guy comes and he's like, "Hey, there's a big comet." What was that movie with the Soup would know it? Where don't look up, something like that, right? And the scientists are like, "Hey, there's a big comet coming and it's gonna kill us all." And they're just like, "Well, just don't look up, or just don't look at it. We'll be fine." And so. This is something that, of course, there is a big danger to AI. On top of that, but it's coming. Right? That's the point. Like, we're not going to put you're not going to put the cap on it, because there's going to be somebody, even if all governments outlawed it, somebody's going to make it somewhere and hide itself. And so, better to understand and try to adapt and evolve. And for someone like me, I'm not going to be around much longer anyway. So, this is for the people, this is for my niece and my nephew, and for the generation Alpha, or whatever they are called now, to get ready. Right. So, all right. I said I was going to start this video before 11:15. So I'm going to start it right now. So this is a video about money. And I guess the preamble would be, I've just been talking about AI. Now we're going to take the AI and put it into robots. And when the robots come, like, I just saw the Electric Viking did a video on a robot that Xpeng had made, and they released it, and it looked just like a person. Like, he's like, I thought it was a person inside of a suit, because it looked so much like a person. It was all going on about how it looks. And what I'm going to make a separate video about that. But what I wanted to explain to him is that it doesn't matter how it looks. Like, Tesla has this thing that they talk about all the time, or I guess it's Elon's phrase. It's like, making one of something is easier, 10 times order of magnitude, to use Elon's phrase, an order of magnitude easier than making 100 of it. And it's an order of magnitude easier to do that than to make 1,000. And then even harder, he's like, prototypes are easy, production is hard, right? Because if you just take 10 really good engineers, or one engineer or somebody, and you try to make something, you can do it. This is why Lamborghinis cost so much money, because it takes so much time and effort to make one, right? To all the craftsmanship that goes into it. And so, but that's not like what Tesla's plan is. They want to make hundreds of millions. They want to make billions of robots in a year. They want to make over $1 billion. They want 100 million, I think, was the goal. We always watched the shareholder meeting in a year, and not like next year, but that's the objective. And then after that, making over $1 billion a year. Right. So the concept of making a robot that's going to be a one-off type of thing, like, you'll see lots of robots that look much fancier than the Tesla robot. But the problem is, you have to mass produce it. You have to be able to make the machines to make those machines. And that's where, this is where Tesla kind of has its advantage in making robots, and that they're trying to make robots. They're thinking, like, at least Elon's thinking is, this needs to be able to be mass produced, which means supply chain, which means, making, warehouses, making, not warehouses, manufacturing plants, making assembly lines. How can we're not just trying to make a cool robot. We're trying to make a robot that is practical, that can do what we need it to do, but we want to be able to make mass produce them. And so so again, when you see all these videos about robots, you'll see robots that are better than Teslas. Like, it's like, oh wow, this is amazing. It looks like this, it looks like that. It can do this, it can do backflips, right? But can it be mass produced? And then not only does it have to be mass produced, it has to be durable, right? So you can make a robot that can do something, but it needs to be, if you want to have it lift, like, let's say lift 25 pounds, like a box, it has to be able to do that over and over and over and over and over and over again. Like, the whole goal is to make the robot so that they take the place of the humans, right? And so that they can work out in the field, and they can grow food, and they can, work in Amazon, and they can drive trucks, and they can do all these stuff that we don't want to do. They can go and roof in the middle of summer. But then you have to make the robots durable, right? Because they're going to be doing this instead of working 8 hours a day like a human, and they're going to work 12, 18, 20 hours a day, and then and 7 days a week, and do it constantly to get to this area of what Elon is calling sustainable abundance, right? Well, then you also have to make the robot so that they can actually, the actual robot is durable enough to do these things, right? So that's a whole nother part of it that people don't really think about. They just watch a video and they say, oh, well, look at this robot. It's doing all this cool stuff, or it looks a certain way and this and that. It's like, great. What's the plan to mass produce that robot? That's the real key. Is it going to be able to be mass produced? So once the robots are mass produced, and they take I saw someone's comment on the video about these robots being made, and they said something like, Elon Musk is never going to give his trillions of dollars away to everyone, so I don't know what they're talking about. It's like, so people don't understand. Like, it's not like Elon Musk makes so much money that he gives it to everybody else. That's not the plan. The plan is that anything that you want, there'll be mass elimination of price, because, again, I'm bringing in my economics background, right? So because supply and demand. So if you can, the only reason economics is just the study of scarce resources. So if things are scarce, like there is no economics of air supply, right? Like we don't because I breathe in, I breathe out. There's no economics about it because air is everywhere. There's a mass amount of it, so we don't care. I don't see someone jogging and being, hey, they're using too much air. They're breathing a lot. We need to stop them. We don't care about that. There's no economics of it because it's not a scarce resource, in our opinion, right? At least on planet Earth. So once, as things get more and more scarce, we need economics. We need to find out how to allocate, and this is where money comes into play. The point of the robots is if we can make enough anything, I think the next thing will probably be energy, where if we make enough solar panels, there's so many ways to make energy between solar, tidal, wind. We don't even need to go to nuclear, but we could. The problem is the wind's not always blowing and the sun's not always shining. But the sun, for example, puts more energy on planet Earth in 1 hour than humanity uses in an entire year, right? And it's been doing that for as long as there's been Earth, 4.5 billion years or so. So the point being is, if we could just capture that energy and store it. Now, right now, we can capture a small percentage of it. Like, our best solar panels are only at 22, 23, maybe 25% efficiency. Like, the amount of energy that hits it, 25% of it's turned into energy. If that gets more now, if we have batteries where we can actually store it, because right now, like the way we make energy, like your grid, the energy is made and then it has to be used. There's no storage. So now, just by putting batteries around, you can now store energy, and now it just drives down. You can make energy at nighttime at the power plants and store it, so you can use it when you need to. And that's going to just drive down cost of energy. So now, if we can get all the other technologies going, there's more than enough energy. And this is like, I think Chamath, forgot what his name is. I don't know, something. Oh, my mic is messed up. Hold on.
In between.
Can you guys not hear me?
Now and then, decides robots we have are used to make who they will do the most for in the beginning. So there will be a period of time where one group will have more than another.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. So you weren't here for the beginning of the show, Soup, but I also said I was explaining this too. But for those of you on TikTok didn't hear what Soup just said. He basically said, who controls the robots in the beginning? There's going to be haves and have-nots. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. People want change. I'm talking about the end, but there's going to be a transition. There's always transition. As I said, people in the very beginning of the show, we started with this. People always want change, but they don't want transition, and transition sucks. Transition is tough. So yeah, there's going to be transition. Just like anything, just like any adoption of anything new. Can't hear me? Can you guys not hear me? Or can you not hear me on stereo? Can you not hear me on the live? Where can you not hear me? Anyway, I don't know. You're saying I'm having issues hearing, so I see my microphone's going on my podcast on the YouTube. So anyway, let me move on. I don't know, Soup. You have to tell me where you can't hear me. Video 11:15. All right, so let's get into this Alan Watts thing, which we'll discuss a little bit more about money. But the point being is, if there is an abundant, if everything becomes abundant, food becomes abundant, energy becomes abundant, products become abundant, housing becomes housing becomes abundant, then the point being is, if we don't have a need for money anymore, then what's the need for money? Because all money is an allocation, is basically an accounting for resources, right? So if all resources become abundant, then there's no need for money. And by the way, I know that's really weird to think about, but sorry. It's really weird to think about, but humans live without money for a long time. Like, humans were around. We go through different, because it's such a long periods of time that go by. We think that the way that things are for the last 200 years is how they always have to be, right? Or even 500 years or 1,000 years. All right. So money didn't always exist, or 10,000 years. These are all small periods of time in the cosmic order of things. And so we can go back to a time where money doesn't exist, which we might be doing, maybe not in our lifetime, but coming. All right. So let's listen to some Alan, because Alan's going to talk more about what I'm talking about right now. Let me pull him up. Hopefully, Soup, if you could help me just make sure that when I play this, that you can hear it on the on YouTube as well. So let me play right now. Up. All right. So it says, for those of you on TikTok who can't see the video because TikTok won't let me play the videos. It was the beginning of this video. Oh, actually, probably you can hear it. You can probably hear it, but you won't be able to see it. I'm going to turn it up as loud as I possibly can. Alan already started a relationship between guilt and gold. Soup, let me know if you can hear it on YouTube when I play again, because that's what I'm concerned about, that it won't play when I record this, so I can put it on Spotify later. It was just talking about the separation of money from our. It was doing. I think it was a Nixon who took us off the gold standard, right? Which is what he was doing. So I'm going to put my phone here so you guys can hear on stereo, and let's get back to it. So the understanding is that the bartering is only necessary. That was a system that we had to come up with. Money came up as just an accounting principle that we had to come up with because maybe you were growing tomatoes and and you needed a pan. Well, maybe the person didn't need tomatoes at that time, so you had to take the tomatoes to somebody who needed tomatoes, and maybe the guy that was selling the pans was like, hey, but I could really use I could use something else. I could really use some blankets, so now you got to go and try to sell your tomatoes and trade it for blankets to then bring the blankets over and to get a pan. So the point being is money was just an accounting system that was developed to make this whole process easier. But what we're going to see here in a minute, and he alluded to it for a second. It said, what happens if money was what is it exactly that he said? It's the point of technology is to save labor, and so if you get to a point where you were trying to keep the labor, right, because we need a job, because we need to make money, because money is something that we feel like we need, but we don't need it. If everything is available, if blankets and pans and tomatoes are all made by the robots, and you don't need the money anymore. So that is the point, right? Oh, that's not good. All right. So hopefully we can hear this on. Let me play it again and see if we can hear it. And I don't know why we couldn't, but let's try. Play. All right, back to Alan. All right, hold on. That's a really important part, but this soup is telling me you can't hear it on here. So let me see if I can fix that. Of course you can't hear it. All right, let me delete that. Let me try adding the screen again. Screen share, window. Oh, also share tab audio. There we go. All right. Got it. All right, I fixed it. All right. So this is really the important part anyway. If you couldn't hear a little while ago, I'm sorry. But let's play it from here.
Of goods. And then, of course, gold was used because gold was rare and because gold was supposed to have a constant value. You might ponder the question, when a banker buys gold, with what does he pay for it?
When a banker buys gold, what does he pay?
The answer is a mystery called credit. Credit is bookkeeping. And as the economy of the Western world developed, it was found that there was not enough gold around, if it were to remain constant in value, to exchange goods and services. You could, of course, have changed the picture by putting down the price of goods and services to keep pace with the amount of gold in circulation. But nobody will ever put down the price. There's something in our psychology whereby prices always tend to go up.
Yes, so this is really important. He just made a couple of points that are really important to understand right off the bat. So first off, he talked about our use of debt, right? Like in America, we don't like the Federal Reserve is not owned by the federal government. It's as Federal Express is, right? It is owned by a bunch of bankers. And what our government did back, I want to say during Andrew Jackson's, error, and one of the reasons why Andrew Jackson got put on a $20 bill, is we basically said we are going to have our money made by the Federal Reserve, and then the U.S. government makes bonds, right? And we're going to get the money from the Federal Reserve for the U.S. government. But how do you buy the money, right? Like, and so we use bonds, right? So we give them bonds, they give us money, we put the money out there, but then there's an interest rate, right? So the bank says, well, you have to pay us an interest. That's how we're going to make money on the money that we give you, that we're borrowing from you. Well, how is that possible if you make all the money? So if you're making all the money, if you make $100, if the Federal Reserve makes $100 and the U.S. government says we want to borrow $100, and they're like, sure, we'll lend you the $100, but you're going to have to pay 12% interest. How is that possible? How? Because if all that exists is $100, how are we going to pay you back 112? Right? We'd have to borrow $12. And this is why when everyone's freaking out about the national debt constantly goes up and up and up and constantly, it's never going to go away. It can't go away. It's impossible to go away. Now, it can get to the point where it's so large that it ridiculously, anyway, I'm not going to go through a whole financial economics talk here, but just understand that we could just print our own money. Money just is made up, right? There's no reason other than for people to get rich. There's no reason for the U.S. government to borrow money from the Federal Reserve in order to get money. But that's the system. It's money is debt from the doorstep, right? And then they intensify the debt by then lending it out more and more and more, right? So anyway, let's keep going. So money was separated from the gold because they said, look, there's not enough gold in existence, because as we keep growing our gross domestic product, as we keep making more stuff, there's not enough gold. Now, he said we could say there's enough gold, all we had to do is lower prices, but we never lower prices. The price of anything can't go down. No one ever lowers prices. So because the system requires us. Yeah. Correct. You're right, Sue. All right, so let me continue on because I want to get through this video because it's really good. In at least part one, we'll do the rest.
But nobody will ever put down the price. There's something in our psychology whereby prices always tend to go up. But at the same time, therefore, because the amount of gold in the world did not provide an adequate channel for the circulation of goods and services, all great industrial nations went heavily into debt. They created a thing called the national debt, which year by year gets bigger and bigger and bigger, to the horror and consternation of old-fashioned Republicans who pay their bills. But the reason for the increase of the national debt is extremely obvious. It is that with an expanding gross national product, there needs to be more and more money, that is to say, tokens of exchange, in order to circulate the amount of goods produced, which is ever increasing. Now, I'm not an economist, but any fool can see certain extremely fundamental principles about this whole situation. And I'm speaking of the thought today of a man called Robert Theobald, who sort of ties in with the general picture of people like McLuhan and Buckminster Fuller, in having very far-out thoughts and very adventurous thoughts about what we should do about money. But he is in the following of a man like Frederick Soddy, who was a Nobel Prize chemist, who was one of the first people to think really freshly about economics. Or people like Silvio Gesell in Austria and Major Douglas in England. He's in that following. And the proposition that he puts forward is very simple. That money is a circulation of information, and in itself has no value.
Yep.
Gold, of course, has some value. It has some value for industry and some value for dentistry and some value for jewelry. But as a means of exchanging the goods and services of the world, it is as primitive as post horses for carrying the mail. We must recognize then that money is a pure abstraction. I was on a television show a little while ago.
So I want to pause it there for a second. So the idea, again, going on is that money is a representation of for goods and services. It's an accounting system. It's not real. Alan in a different talk talks about, the definition of wealth, and what wealth actually is not money, but wealth is resources plus time plus human intelligence, right? So the ability to come up with something, be innovative. That's what real wealth is. So money is just an accounting system for those things. And so we've created a system of just debt where, because we have to keep raising the prices of things and we keep making more things because we keep having more people, then this concept of debt keeps going up and up and up, right? So there we go.
With Ted Sorensen and Raymond Moley. And they were having a long, long discussion, which sounded like something that goes on in a smoke-filled back room of party bosses, where they were talking about the prospects for the Republican Democratic parties in 1968.
This has been going on.
And then they got on to the question of automation and the problems of unemployment that it was making and the difficulties of transferring workers from this to that when they were only trained for this.
This sounds very familiar as to what's going on, right? The problem of transferring workers from one to another, how that's going to be an issue. It's going to be a problem because of more and more automation that is coming around, right? It sounds, this is again 1960s. Alan Watts died in 1974. So this is a problem that exists for every time a new invention comes out. The gin mill came out, people wanted to break it because they're like, well, we don't need, we're going to lose jobs, right? And again, it's the concept of technology is supposed to be there to make our lives easier, but money is a system that we have in place that holds back the technology because we want people to have jobs to make money. And it doesn't make sense, right? So what's the important thing? Do we want the money or do we want the resources and the time? That's the important thing that we want. But instead we are like, well, we got to keep these meaningless, frivolous jobs so you can make money, which is not a thing. It doesn't do anything. Right? So let's keep going. He's going to talk about this too.
Finally, I said, the trouble with you gentlemen is you still think money is real. And they looked at me and sort of said, oh, someone who doesn't think money is real, because everybody knows money is money and it's very important. But it just isn't real at all, because it has the same relationship to real wealth, that is to say, to actual goods and services, that words have to meaning, that words have to the physical world. And as words are not the physical world, money is not wealth.
No.
It only is an accounting of available energy, economic energy. Now, what happens then when you introduce technology into production? You produce enormous quantities of goods by technological methods. But at the same time, you put people out of work.
Yep.
You can say, oh, but it always creates more jobs. There will always be more jobs, yes. But lots of them will be futile jobs. They will be jobs making every kind of frippery and unnecessary contraption. And one will also at the same time have to beguile the public into feeling that they need and want these completely unnecessary things that aren't even good or beautiful. And therefore an enormous amount of nonsense employment and busy work, bureaucratic and otherwise, it has to be created in order to keep people working.
Yes. So this is another concept. Like, there's so much, like wow, that just hit me. Like when we think about our government, and like when we have like a bill that has to get passed, and I think I saw one of the bills was something like 1900 pages, and the bureaucracy that's created by our government, that's all that is created just to create jobs, just to have jobs, of to give people money. They're not necessary. There's so many unnecessary jobs, and even when we try to get rid of them, everyone's like, oh no, look, you're laying off all these people, and all these people won't be able to get money. It's a system that eats itself. And so we have to keep people going to these jobs to do nothing that's helping to create red tape, to create more bureaucracy, because we just want to have them, we just want to give them money so they can, so the economy stays good. It's someone who's, it's a law. The people have lost their way. And so this is why the machines are going to take a little bit longer to figure out. This is why the transition is going to be really tough, because of the fact that we are locked into this system of nonsense. Really, we've taken the tool, right? People in this podcast today, we're talking about how AI is going to be, it has no soul and it's a bad thing and it could be used in the wrong way. Well, look, we already have systems that are being used in the wrong way. Money, this economic system that we have, has warped our brains to thinking money is the important thing, and the real wealth, the time, the resources, it's not going to be, he's not going to say it in this video, but there's another video by Alan Watts where he talks about we had a Great Depression in America, and this Great Depression was literally because of the stock market crashing. Right, the stock market went down. It was like after the booms of the 1920s, and the stock market crashed, and so we had a problem with money. But he's like, but we had the same amount of resources. We had people. We had wood. We had metal, we had all the things that we needed, the same things that were there before that stock market crash happened, were there after the stock market crash. And we had people literally living in the streets and dying when there were houses available. And so, and heat available, and all the resources were available. But because the monetary system was messed up, we had a Great Depression. We had people living and dying in the streets, and we had our entire, because we thought money was the real thing, and it's not the real thing. Right now, I say this all the time when we talk about homelessness, like people, I see you later, Soup. We have talked, so how many, I know I've looked this up many times before, but let's talk about, if we wanted to, I have people all the time who are like, why doesn't Elon Musk just solve homelessness, take all his money and solve hunger? Because it wouldn't work. And people don't understand that. Like it just wouldn't work, because those things are still going to exist. It's not money that's the problem. It's not houses that's the problem, right? So how many homeless people are there in the US? How many homeless in America? Take a guess, by the way. I wonder what you guys think, how many homeless people you think there are. All right, in January 2024, there were approximately 771,480 homeless people in the United States. Now, how many empty houses are in the United States? There are nearly 15 million vacant homes in the United States. This number includes homes that are for sale, for rent, and used for seasonal purposes. The vacancy rate is approximately 10.4% nationally. So 15 million. So let's say 5 million. Let's say 10 million of them are just houses that are for sale or for rent currently, and no one's actually living in it. Even if it was 10, even if it was only 5 million left, that's 5 times more than the homeless. Like, so all the vacant homes that are just out there. So it's not like there's not enough houses for the homeless. They don't have money for the houses. So we'd rather the house just sit there and nobody live in it than to just give it to a homeless person who didn't pay for it. And now, by the way, when you bring that up, now people go, oh, socialism, it's socialism, so I had to pay for my house. Why shouldn't they have to pay for their house? Like that's the ridiculousness that comes up. So because you bought your house, because you paid for your house, you don't think it would be unfair for somebody else to just get a free house. All right. How about we have enough houses for everyone? We don't need, by the way, the whole mortgage and interest rate thing is a whole piece of garbage as well. All right. So Rondo, I see you in here. We have a message. So I'm going to get back to this, but I want to play. I'm going to play all the messages that are left over at the end for the stereo people when we wrap up the podcast. But I do this podcast every Sunday, 10 to 12. We call it Cosmic Matters. It's under Philosophy Man 76 on YouTube and Philosophy Man 76 on TikTok. All right, Rondo, let me just hear what you had to say.
I think the whole thing is about scarcity.
Yes. You came in a little late.
It's an idea that's promoted to people that don't understand, like what you said before. What we consider wealth has and will always be here. Now, my perception of wealth, which is the money and the monetary system, that's my perception of wealth. And if I connect my livelihood with my perception of wealth, which is not true, then when that perception starts to dissolve, I feel like I'm falling apart. But the more and more we realize the art of letting go, we realize letting go allows us the freedom that reflects our nature, that's conducive to who we are as beings, free-flowing beings. So yeah, I'm definitely with you, family. We got to just change the perception a little bit.
Yes, and I do agree. I mean, the concept of money also is it's a level of control, right? It controls people in many, many, many ways. It's a way for the ruling class to stay on top. They're not going to give up this monetary system. This is why, when cryptocurrency came out, people got freaked out. When the GameStop thing came about, and a lot of people are making all kinds of money. Like George Carlin had a wonderful saying. It was kind of colorful. He's like, talking about the class system, and he's like the rich have all the money and have all the power and pay none of the taxes. That's the way the tax system is set up, right? It's like the middle class, they do all the work and pay all the taxes. And he's like, the poor are just there to scare the shit out of the middle class, right? So keep them showing up at their jobs. That's the purpose of the poor. And so that's why they don't just take one of these take these 700,000 homeless people and just give them the houses, give them one of the 15 million empty houses across the United States. By the way, I do the same for food. Like, I could do the same for food. All the people that are hungry, there's more than enough food to feed everyone. Food grows out of the ground, like literally is free. Like Louis C.K. did this bit once where he talked about like if God came back and we were like trying to explain to him why everything's messed up. And he was like, why is there oil on the bears? Like, why are the polar bears have oil on them? And this, that, and like, he's like, what are you doing? Like, he's like, and Louis C.K. is trying to talk to God. He's like, well, we needed monies. And God's like, what is money? What is that? What do you need that for? And he's like, well, we need like food and stuff. And he's like, eat the stuff that's on the ground. Like there's food everywhere. It's like I put food in the water. I put food everywhere. There's always food. There's plenty of food. He's like, yeah, but it doesn't taste. We like bacon. We want it to taste good. We want the actual. He's like trying to come up with these things, and God's just looking at him like, what are you talking about? Like everything you need. And that was the thing that Rondo just said. Everything that we feel is scarce, we have plenty of. There's absolutely no scarcity if we worked in a system that didn't. The money system is designed. So what is the thing we need most, right? What do humans need more than anything? Air, right? Well, there's air everywhere. Just breathe a little bit of it, right? So what's the next thing that we need? Water, right? Well, we can't live. We can't go more than 3 or 4 minutes without air. We can't, and so the air is everywhere. We can't go more than what, a couple days, a week, so without water. Well, 2/3 of the planet is water. You're like, well, I can't drink all of it. Well, we have systems that we can easily, we know how to desalinate water. Like we know how to do it. You know what the problem is? And you can go look this up on YouTube. It's a whole video of Neil deGrasse Tyson talking to Joe Rogan about this. But do you know what the problem is? It's too expensive. It's too expensive. See, right? Because the money aspect, water falls out of the freaking sky, right? As people like, so right, so we can get water. Like water is not something. It's the next most abundant thing on this planet is water, right? What do we need after that? Food, right? So again, food, we can grow food. Food, we can literally comes out of the ground. It comes off trees. We can eat tons of stuff. There's animals everywhere that we're able to eat, and there's food we can grow. So the idea that we don't have enough of it is ridiculous. Shelter, fine. We have trees grow out of the ground. We can make shelters. We know how to do this. We can do all the things that we need. We have, right? And we need a little love, right? And we have plenty of love if we actually wanted to love each other a little bit more. Right. And so these concepts of, and when we get to more modern technology, we're like, oh, energy. I just talked about this before. The sun puts more energy on planet Earth in an hour than humanity uses an entire year. We have more than enough energy with solar energy, wind energy, tidal energy, like all the energy we need. And we now have also the capacity to harness it and store it. Just do that. But then we'd have to give people free energy. Oh my God, can't give people free stuff. I guarantee you, if there was a way to make air something that they could commoditize and make you have to buy. I mean, I hate bottled water. Like I hate the concept of bottled water. Like we've somehow trained ourselves that we need bottled water, which literally we can't drink out of the tap anymore. That's like barbarianism. Right? You can't just fill up water. You need to filter it, and it's not good for you. This is all a scam. I drank water out of a hose for years as a kid. Hey, totally fine. Now there are people probably say I'm not okay. I'm not fine. But we have filtration systems that can make water quite abundant. But if they could find a way for us to say the air is quality is bad, and you got to drink, you got to breathe canned air, they would do that too. All right. So anyway, all right, Rondo, I got another comment. I liked your last comment, so we'll do another one. We only got 12 minutes left, so let's go.
I definitely agree that the earth is abundant. Everything we need is there. So not only are we battling our own perception, we're battling the fact that a small percentage of the world has monopolized everything that's infinite, from spirituality to water. So we got to battle that aspect of what's happening as well. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We're battling ourselves and greedy people.
Yes. The idea of the hierarchy of control of people, like these systems are, since the beginning of time, since the beginning of man, let's just say, the people who are searching for power find systems to put in place to control other people, right? Money is just one of those systems. Religion is another one of those systems. It's a matter of, education is part of those systems. The rich don't get taught what the middle class and the poor get taught as far as money and systems and how things are going. So as long as we have to understand this, and what's going to happen is with the elimination of money, with these robots, which I if Elon really does pull us off, he's going to get murdered. He's going to get assassinated. I know it. The concept of abundance given to everybody, and even Soup before he left, Super High Man before he left, was like, oh, who's going to control the robots beforehand? Is there going to be a lot of wealth at first? Yes, the transition will happen, but the concept of once these robots are out there, once there's a robot for you can have 3 robots for every person. And this is going to happen fast. And as far as people always say to me, like, I don't know how long it's going to take. I go, well, these first robots that are made, what do you think they're going to be making? The robots are just going to make more robots. Like they're just going to we're going to get to a point where we can have 3 or 4 robots on planet Earth for every human on planet Earth, making all the things, making everything abundant. And then there's no need for money. But then we are going to go through a crisis. Now, and we're going to do this in part 2. And I'll do part 2 maybe next week. We're going to go through a crisis of meaning, because humans have so much wrapped their identity up into money and our careers. And we ask little kids at 6-7 years old, what are you going to do when you grow up? What are you going to be when you grow up? We put our entire education system is designed to focus on getting a job so you can get a good high paying job with good benefits and blah, blah, blah. That's our whole system is designed for that right now. And so Andrew Yang, who's one of the presidential candidates who I endorsed, he talked about how we have to come up with value for humans other than economic value. Economic value is important, but it's not the only value that we can have. Man, I really wanted to get to all this stuff, but I blabbled on so much in the first hour. There's so much to talk about on this topic. Dreamy, you definitely we got to play your comments.
Do you remember the days when YouTube had no ads? Now there's ads.
Yes. That's like everything though. That's like I always let these comments take me on tangents, which is fun. I like talking to you guys. So this is my little therapy on Sundays. But I was just saying this to someone the other day. I was like, we had cable TV, right? So first we had regular TV that with like networks that controlled everything, and they had ads, and then they had cable, and certain cable they had subscription like HBO and you go and Showtime and these things you could pay for them so you wouldn't have ads and you just have movies and you could watch that. And then they came out with cable TV, so they have more ads. You'd have different channels. You could pick your channels, this and that. And then Netflix came out. Now everybody has subscriptions to, Amazon Prime and Disney Channel. Everyone's got all that stuff. They spend more money on all these subscriptions, and now you have to get the premium because they put the ads in there anyway. Now you watch Amazon Prime and all the ads are back, and so this is more and more cycle of money, right? So, I'm looking forward to. I don't think it will happen in my lifetime. I hope it does, but I hope the future race, the future human race that doesn't have money, looks back and says, "You guys were so dumb. You guys are really, really, really dumb back in the day." But anyway, all right. So we got a couple minutes left. I want to finish up. Am I going to be able to finish this video? Maybe not. We'll play. It's only got 3 or 4 minutes left, so let's play a little bit more, and then I'll do a part 2 of this concept because I have a whole lot of stuff I still want to share. We'll do part 2 next week. Again, we do this every Sunday, 10 to 12.
Because we believe, as good Protestants, that the devil finds work for idle hands to do. But the basic principle of the whole thing has been completely overlooked. That the purpose of the machine is to make drudgery unnecessary. And if we don't allow it to achieve its purpose, we live in a constant state of self-frustration.
Yeah.
So then if a given manufacturer automates his plant and dismisses his labor force, and they have to operate on a very much diminished income, say some sort of dole, the manufacturer suddenly finds that the public does not have the wherewithal to buy his products.
All right, let me stop there because I want to talk. That's a whole other thing I want to talk about, which is UBI, Universal Basic Income, which is a whole thing, and it's necessary. Yeah, the mechanics of eliminating money. Maybe we'll do a part 2 next week. But something that he just said really quickly, also that we're going to talk about next week, is I've had people say this to me when I've talked about this concept with them, and they say things like, well, if there was no money and people didn't have jobs, everyone's just going to lay around and do drugs and be a lazy. It's going to be like WALL-E. If you ever seen the movie WALL-E, where like every human becomes like super fat and the robots do everything and they don't do anything but watch TV screens and sit in a recliner and eat food and that's it. And I want to say that that is a poor depiction of what it's a looking down at humans. That definitely would not be what happened. We think that would be what happened because we can't. Michael Jordan had a saying once where he said, the worst thing is to have a lot of money and a lot of time, and nothing to do. But the thing is, we will find things to do. We will find things to do that we don't need money for. Like we will find things like the people who do the best. And yeah, I'll wrap up with this statement, then we'll bring it back next week. The people who are the best at the things that they do, the best doctors, the best musicians, the best architects, the best podcasters, the best. If you find the best in anything, the people who are at the top love doing what they do. They love it, and the reason why they don't do it for the money. The people who do it for the money are usually not at the very top. Other than I guess maybe financial people, right? I guess people who are in the money fields. But even those people see it as a game. Like they love doing what they're doing. They love it. And so like do you think if everyone was taken care of, if everyone had food, shelter, all the things that they can want. You want a Lamborghini, you get a Lamborghini. Why? Because the robots can make you a Lamborghini. Well, no, people wouldn't want Lamborghinis anymore because if you've ever been in a Lamborghini, I have. I don't own one, obviously, but I've been in one. It's really uncomfortable to sit in. Okay, like you get in and get out, it's great. It goes fast, but who's driving 260 miles per hour at any given point in your life, other than like once or twice if you go to the Autobahn, right? So there's really no point. You can't fit anybody else in it other than you and one other person. So it's more of a status. It's more of just being able to say, look, I'm better than you because I have more of this made up money. And so therefore I can attract a mate. In some cases, I can be impressive to my friends. It's to feed my ego, as far as buying a car like that. There's no real practical use. But if you wanted one, if robots can make you one, right? So then, if it wasn't a status symbol anymore, people wouldn't want one. They wouldn't want them anymore because there's no point in them. So that concept of getting our identities from money is what we're going to have to deal from, either from our money, from our jobs. And the people who are really good at the people who say like, oh, well, if everyone had all the money that they wanted, people wouldn't do anything. I'm like, I go and play volleyball. I'm on a volleyball team that I take very seriously when I'm playing. People would do. I don't think I'm going to become a professional. I'm never going to make $1 from playing volleyball, but I enjoy doing it. I do this podcast not because this is for money. I do it because I enjoy it. There's one person, Dreamy, thank you for being here the entire time. And some other people popped in and out, and I thank them for listening, but I'm just chatting away. And now I want to hopefully I grow the podcast and whatnot, but if I never make any money from this, I'm okay with it because I just enjoy doing it. I love talking about these subjects, right? So by the way, I love to make money. If you want to make some money, I'm happy about that too. I mean, not get that wrong, because we still live in that world. But the point being is, the reason I started doing this podcast, I said, well, if I had all the money in the world, what would I do? Like if I made all the money that I needed and I was like, in a hospital bed, or I wasn't in a hospital bed, but I was financially so well off that I didn't have any, I didn't desire for anything with money. What would I do? I said, well, I would probably do a podcast and talk about these things and talk about these subjects that I like talking about. So that's where Cosmic Matters came from. That's why I do this every day on a Sunday. I don't have to get paid for this. I would do it. I do it because I like it. So to think that people are going to just be laying in bed all day long and just become gluttonous and not have any purpose or meaning if money didn't exist, if all their desires were taken care of, is just, in my opinion, erroneous, right? We just don't understand it because we have to soak up 40 hours of our week going to a job because we feel like we need money, because we've set up this system to cause people to need money, right? So anyway, there we go. Dreamy, from the beginning to the end, I really appreciate you so much. I'm going to we're going to wrap up today's Cosmic Matters. I'm going to definitely do a part 2 to this, because I didn't even get to the second video I want to talk about. I probably spent the first hour babbling about stuff that didn't relate. So we'll be more on right on topic starting off next week. But thank you so much. Please follow me on YouTube and on TikTok, PhilosophyMan76. And this is part 1 of Cosmic Matters. I'm going to play for the stereo crowd. I'm going to stay on a little bit longer and play the messages. I just got another one from Dreamy. For the TikTok and YouTube people, I will see you next week. Thank you so much for being here. And we'll sign off. Next week, we'll do part 2 of the concept of money, more about robotics and more about our identity as humanity after money. So let me sign off of there. And we'll see you all soon. And then stereo, I'm going to stay with the stereo for a little bit longer. Let me end that stream. Let me play this message.